Well, hello everyone. It's really good to see you. I realize I can't really see you, but it is always my hope and my intention that you might stop by and glean something from one of my videos that you can take that will accentuate your life and maybe help you live a life that's more abundant and a little bit more happy. And we all want that, don't we? I started a series on the basic foundations of earthly life, and those are God and marriage and relationship and also family. I'm going to be continuing that series, but I wanted to segue also and balance it out with a series on universal law and the law of attraction. I love balance, and speaking of balance, I'm happy that you're here, and I'd like to start with balancing our connection together because I like to feel our oneness, and get you into a place of focus, because I truly believe when you're relaxed and you're focused and everything else just kind of melts away from your mind, any worries or thoughts or things that are stressful, and you're just serene and focused, you're going to assimilate a lot more information, and you might even hear spiritually for yourself when you're relaxed. So let's just start out doing that first, okay? If you will, take this one hand and put it on your belly, maybe right around your belly button area, and then take the other hand. They always look so big on here when I do this. And put it in your heart space, right in here. And we're going to take a few moments to imagine someone that we dearly love, or it can be an animal that you dearly love, or maybe it's a place that just gives you a sense of love and peace. Usually it's a person or an animal. And just imagine, if you can visualize the subject of your love inside of your mind's eye. You can have your eyes closed or they can be open, whichever you're most comfortable with. And when you get that vision, allow that love to go into your heart space. Just see it go, funnel down into your heart space. And then just let it expand out into this entire space. And take a deep breath in. And just relax and breathe out. And you'll know when that love is expanding, because you'll feel a sense of almost pressure inside of here. It gets almost like it's consumed within your heart space. There are really no words to describe that feeling, but it's that in-love feeling you get when you truly know that you sense that you're in love with someone. You get this feeling. It's almost like your heart space is consumed. You get butterflies in your stomach. And just kind of sit with it for a few moments. We're going to take a few deep breaths in. So if you breathe in with me now. And just breathe out and relax. And deep breath in. And breathe out and relax. Deep breath in, shoulders back. And let them go down and relax as you breathe out. Now just breathe normally. Now if you're really good at guided visualization, you can visualize that love going all the way through your body and completely relax. If you're not good at doing that, or not used to doing that, no fear, because practice makes perfect, right? If you practice doing that every day, every night, you'll get better at it, and it will relax you in an instant, and it'll get to the point where your body is so triggered by that visualization, it will automatically begin to relax. It's just amazing. Our bodies are just amazing. God created it that way, and that's the way we are. We're absolutely amazing, and I hope that you're feeling that right now. A great sense of peace. So, while you're feeling peace, we're going to talk about a universal law that's called the Law of Reciprocity. Now, I know that is a huge mouthful, isn't it? It just means that the universe reciprocates what you put out there. Let's look at it from a governmental standpoint. When the government makes laws, say for instance, the laws that are upheld by our police department or sheriff's department, there are laws that are out there that we come to understand that if we violate those laws, we could be in big trouble. If we don't violate those laws, we can be serene and at peace, knowing that that trouble is not going to bother us. But if we are in violation, depending on the extreme of the violation, whether it's a little violation or if it's a really big violation, we can get hit with something that's really, really horrible in our life that we don't really want. Or it could be kind of a slow bleed if we're kind of in, I don't want to say in the practice, or if we're just in a mode of violating the law all of the time. That slow bleed will eventually lead us to a place where our lives are not going to be very comfortable. We're going to be receiving back what we put out there, which is lawlessness, and we're going to reap the havoc that we put out there. If we are abiding in the law, then we're going to reap the benefits of being someone who abides in the law. Now, God made universal laws to work exactly the same way. They're standard, they're faithful, and they never fail. You'll start to learn, if you practice some of this, if you don't know it already, you'll learn that when you abide by the law, that your life will be a whole lot more smooth than if you violate the law repeatedly. Now, sometimes when we violate the law with something extreme, we're going to get something extreme back very quickly. But sometimes we'll violate the law and violate the law and violate the law, and we get hit back with what a lot of us call karma. And it seems like it collects together, and all of a sudden our life is rained upon, and it feels like everything is going wrong. Well, life is not meant to be perfect, and it's never ever going to be perfect. So let me just kind of bring that into your headspace. You are going to go through some things, and you might have to work through some things, but the way you work through those things are going to be the big difference as to how the outcome is going to be for you. Now, the law of reciprocity is something it seems very simplistic, but we are in a world, and we live in a world that has so much negativity out there that sometimes people don't even realize how much of that negativity we absorb. We can be out there and not even be generally a negative person, but we can absorb everything and the energy that's around us that's negative, and come home and not realize that things are coming out of us, or maybe we're not in a real good mood, or we're going through things that just don't feel very good, or maybe something in our bodies, because we are energy receptors. We're like radio waves. We give out energy and we soak in energy, and so we'll bring it home, or we'll just have it at home, and we won't realize it, but it's happening. All of this negativity is raining down on us, and the next thing we know, a lot of negativity is coming out of us. So according to the law of reciprocity, we're going to be reciprocated according to what we give out. It doesn't make any difference whether we soaked it in out there in society. Maybe somebody cut us off in traffic and we got very angry. Well, the person that cut us off is not going to feel the karma that comes to you because you got angry and couldn't deal with it and brought it home and continued in that anger. So I'm not saying that we're never ever going to get angry, that we're never going to cry, never going to get upset. Those things are going to happen. They're typical human and general human emotions. We have them for a reason. Let them be your teachers. But if we're out there and we get cut off in traffic and we don't get angry, and we say to ourselves, I am so grateful. I'm so grateful that nothing happened to me or the other person. There was no accident, there was no harm, and I'm grateful for my life. And this is another key that I'd like to give to you. This is one of the main ingredients, excuse me. Where'd that come from? It's not a plural. It's one of the main ingredients to being successful in universal law and the law of attraction is having an attitude of gratitude. If you can get yourself to a point where you're grateful for the things in your life, you can see gratitude in just about anything. Not everything is completely negative. We have a lot of grace and mercy that has been given to us and shined upon us by God that we can utilize and soak into ourselves every single day and every moment that we breathe. So, for instance, if you can be absolutely grateful for maybe that boss that doesn't treat you very well, and just be grateful that your boss is there and alive for you to teach you. Be grateful that you have a job. Be grateful that that job is something that you utilize the funds that come from it, and you have a wonderful home to come home to, and you can provide for your family. There are a lot of different ways to see gratitude, but having an attitude of gratitude is something that we all have to work on. And once you learn to have it, once you work on it, you have to exercise it in order to build it, just like a muscle. But once you learn to have it, once you learn to really work it, you'll start to notice that less and less, a lot of the reasons you get upset to begin with will just melt away, and your life will become so blessed. And I'm telling you, this is something that never, ever fails. Never. Now, I want to tell you a story, and it's going to be from the Bible. We're going to go from the time of Adam and Eve, and also from primarily the Old Testament in the Bible. There's kind of like I don't want to say it's a tradition, because it's not a tradition. It's something that people did in the Bible when they got extremely frustrated or something really horrible happened. And what they did, and I never could understand this, but they tore their clothes. We'll see that they lost something that they thought they were going to have victory, or, something very sad happened, and it was very grievous. You'll read in the Bible that, and they ripped their clothes because they were stressed out, they were anguished. It was a way of showing grief and frustration. And I used to always think, well, why do they always do that? I mean, why would you want to rip off your clothes like that? And the way it was always explained to me was, it was a way of showing, tremendous frustration. And I can understand it. Can't you relate to that? Don't you sometimes just want to go, we don't always go out there and tear off our clothes, hopefully, but we do feel frustrated. And as I was driving home today, go figure, it's like all the universe knows I'm going to make a video today. And so this example comes during the very first part of the Bible, when it talks about the Garden of Eden and Adam and Eve, and after the original sin happens, and they find themselves in a real pickle because God knows that they sinned or missed the mark or did the wrong thing. They put out something that wasn't supposed to be done, so they were going to have to receive the consequences, which is the law of reciprocity, and there were consequences. But aside from those consequences, God's grace came in and said, I'm going to cover you. And what God did is took animal skins in the story and gave them to Adam and Eve for covering, because they were naked and they had this illumination that they were naked. And so God gave them a covering. And this is symbolic of God's grace and mercy and God's protection. It says, okay, I want to give you something to be grateful for. Even though they had to reap some discipline from what the mistakes were that they made, God also gave them something to be grateful for. And when you have that covering, it's something to be grateful for. Aren't you grateful that you have clothing when it's really cold outside, and maybe a nice warm coat or blanket, or if it's really cool, you know, you have things that are a little bit cooler. I'm always grateful for what I have that God has provided for me. But there are a lot of things that are covering. There are the roofs over our head. You know, they can be a blanket, like I mentioned. It can be a covering of an employer that gives to you constantly because they're just very generous, or a covering that comes from a friend and they're so wonderfully filled with love and grace and mercy that that friend just shines upon you all of the time. It becomes a place of security and covering. And I truly believe that when you have friends like that, they're like angels, they're earth angels, and they're sent to us because we have attracted those people into our lives. And I'm going to get to that in successive videos, but I just really want to get to this point in particular because this is the main thing that came to me while I was driving and coming home. And I'm being very thankful and grateful for my car because it covers me and it gets me where I need to go. But I thought, why did they tear their clothes? Why did they do that? Well, what they did was they ripped off their covering. They ripped off their covering. It was an attitude basically that came from stress and anguish. And this is what came to me as I started to hear a lot of this and see a lot of this, because visually I can actually obtain this because I am clairvoyant, I'm clairaudient. I can have both of those happen while I'm driving, and that's a miracle in and of itself. But why would they want to rip off their covering? Why would they want to do that? Why would anyone want to do that? And this is the main lesson. Don't rip off your covering out of anguish. Don't do it. Don't be ungrateful. Don't be in a place of stress or anxiety. Allow yourself to be reeled back into that place of grace and gratitude. You see, they didn't really need to rip off their clothes. They actually, needed to just see where their place of gratitude was. And they didn't, and ripping off the clothes and being stressed out was really unnecessary. An attitude of gratitude does so much for our life. Say, for instance, you have a friend or someone that's a loved one and treats you very badly or very poorly. And maybe they treat you that way all of the time. Maybe it's somebody that you can't be away from because they're a part of your life, or you have to deal with this coworker and they just don't treat you very well. And there's a part of you that says, I feel this sense of indignation. Well, that's you taking off your own covering. When you cover yourself with gratitude, with the grace and mercy that God gave to us, that attitude of gratitude creates a miracle. It takes away the anxiety, the stress, the anger, the frustration, and it brings you into a new mode and puts that mode into a flow. And it's an invisible flow. We don't see it until later it shows up in that coworker and they begin to treat us a little bit better. And it almost feels like magic. And it actually is. It's a miracle. When we keep and maintain our covering, the grace of God, the gratitude that comes from it, and not allow ourselves to go there into a place where we feel maybe just, I don't want to just keep saying angry or frustrated, but offended. If we don't let ourselves go into a place of offense and let us keep into a place of gratitude, then you'll start to see it within the flow, the gratitude come back to you in a form of blessing and covering through the law of reciprocity. Now, you might be asking, because I asked this too, how do I do this when this person is always like this in the same example? Well, everyone has something that we can be grateful for about someone else in any situation or in any situation. So if you can just sit down and think about, or get into the routine of thinking about all of the things that you're grateful for about that person. Maybe they are someone who recommended you for a job that you really needed, and you're grateful for that. Maybe there's someone who gives to you at a time where you really need it, and you're grateful for that. It doesn't give them an excuse, it doesn't give them an excuse to treat you poorly. But see, that's their karma, That's what they're putting out into the universe. That's what they have to deal with. That's what they're going to have to deal with later on down the line if they don't make a change. But for you, you can live in this attitude of gratitude and find gratefulness in everything that you see. The more that you learn to do this, journal it, write it down, come up with all of the reasons you can be grateful for anything that might even bother you. Maybe it doesn't bother you at all. You just want to be grateful. You can train yourself to automatically be grateful. And when you do that, you have trained yourself to abide in the law of reciprocity. And you will receive back what you put out. And that thing that you receive back, or whatever, that flow that you receive back, will be a river of blessing, because gratitude cannot come back with something that's bad. It's universal law and it's standard. What you put out there is what you're going to get back. It is having putting yourself in a place of receiving, always receiving. Realize that. You're always receiving. Whether you know it, whether you realize it or not, whether it's affecting you at this moment or not, you're always receiving. And you have control and choice as to what it is that you do receive. It's easy to be in a bad mood. We all get into bad moods. We all say things that we regret. When we do that, we apologize. We put ourselves into a place of gratitude. We get ourselves surrounded by that gratitude bubble. Think of all of the reasons why you're grateful for someone who offended you. Or maybe you offended them. And that apology and that forgiveness will actually happen a whole lot easier than if you didn't put yourself in a place of gratitude. So I hope this makes some sense to you. I've gone on for about 23 minutes and counting. The law of reciprocity is something very important that you need to learn. Take some time, breathe it all in, meditate on it. Think about all of the times where you could have acted or reacted a little bit differently. Think of all of the moments where maybe you have a bad attitude about something and you could have an attitude of gratitude, and watch it work its magic. And it is miraculous. It will never fail you. Honest to goodness, it will never fail you. And I'm saying this because it is absolutely true. I've seen it in my life. I know that it happens. Doesn't mean that I always work it right. We always are a work in progress, right? And give yourself that grace. Be in gratitude that you're a work in progress. You don't have to stay this way. You don't have to stay a certain way. Things can always get better. You can make them better. And it goes even further than that. And I want to get to those places where we go further than that, where you're receiving so much better than what you have now. You can have any life that you desire. And I kid you not, that is not hype. It absolutely is the truth. There is one point where my life, for the first time in my life, I was actually homeless. I was homeless. And I thought to myself, how in the world did I get here? It was like a slow bleed. And one thing led to another, and the frustration and the stress and the anguish and all of those things were just hitting me and bombarding me all at once. And it put me in a place where I was so stressed out I couldn't see anything good in anything. And that's not a good place to be. But when you learn to turn yourself around through the law of reciprocity, what you give out there is what you're going to get back. It works with gratitude. It works with spiritual things. It works with material things. We'll get into that. It works with everything. The best thing is it works with you. It will work with you. It worked with me. It works with others. Books have been written about it. You can read about it on the internet. Google it. It will work with you, guaranteed. If you need help on the law of reciprocity, or if you need help on gratitude or anything in your life, you can always contact me. You can read my blog at lifelessonsbyJenineMarie.com. You can go to JenineMarie.com and see all of the things that I do. I'd love to hear from you. I'd also like to hear about your success stories, because that even bolsters me up. I mean, it just really does. To know that whatever I put out brought something back to me that is amazing, that it actually touched another human being and made your life better. How much better can that get? It's amazing. It's a wonderful feeling to know that you did something wonderful and great that affected someone else's life for better. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of the day. I hope that you learned something today. If you have anything to add, you can always comment down below, even put your questions down there, and I'll do my best to answer them the best that I can. Until I see you again on the very next video, we'll go into another universal law. God bless you. I love you from here. Take care and be in gratitude. Bye-bye.